Good to see everybody here this evening. So glad that you made it out. I know it is very dark. Brother Gene and I were talking earlier. He said it just don't seem like that it used to get quite this dark. And I said, well, I think the older we get, the darker it seems. I don't know, but anyway, it is pretty dark out there, and it's that time of year. It's getting to be the shortest days of the year, and so we know how that happens. But thank you for being here tonight. I'm so glad that you were able to be here online or in person. Glad that you are here. We will be picking up again in Genesis chapter 31. Genesis chapter 31. We're going to be starting in verse 22. Genesis 31, starting in verse 22. And last week, if you remember, Jacob had had enough, and the Lord told him it was time to get out of here, and he would be with him. And so he loaded up all of his family and all of his stuff, and he took off and headed towards the mountains of Gilead, which was approximately 300 miles away. And so he's heading that way, getting out of town, and he didn't tell Laban anything. He just packed up and headed out. And so we're going to pick up this week and find out how Laban took that and exactly what happened. So look with me to verses 22 through 24. 22 through 24. And Laban was told on the third day that Jacob had fled. Then he took his brethren with him and pursued him for 7 days' journey. And he overtook him in the mountains of Gilead. But God had come to Laban the Syrian in a dream by night and said to him, "Be careful that you speak to Jacob neither good nor bad." So he was in hot pursuit. He took off. He got a 3-day head start. Laban was shearing sheep, so he was out away from everything, and he didn't know what was happening. And so it was 3 days' journey before he was told that Jacob and the family had departed. So now Jacob's got a 3-day head start, but Laban jumps on, gets his mob, and they take off and they overtake him in 7 days. So they were really doing a lot of traveling. They were really trying to catch up with him. But God, again, had already told Jacob he would be with him. And so God revealed something. He spoke to Laban in a dream. Now, I don't know about you, when you start thinking about this whole situation, understand Laban did not believe in the same God. He had idols. If you remember, right before they took off, Rachel decided to steal the idols and took them with her. So he did not believe in the same God. He was not a believer, yet God spoke to him in a dream. It made me think about some things that, how often does God speak to lost people? Perhaps he speaks to lost people more than we realize. Perhaps sometimes when he speaks to lost people, it's what encourages them to inquire about more things. Perhaps it's when he speaks to lost people, they begin to realize they're lost. I don't know. There's no website to go and find out how many times God spoke to lost people. We don't know that, but clearly he did, and I imagine still does talk to lost people, and he brings to them what they need to know. In this case, he didn't try to tell Laban, you need to follow me, you need to become a follower of me. He was protecting Jacob, pure and simple. He was protecting Jacob, and he told Laban, be careful. He threatened him, be careful. Don't say good or bad. Don't say anything out of line to Jacob. Don't do it. And so he was making sure that Jacob was going to be protected. It's an amazing thing to think about that, because you see this picture. Laban is not happy. Laban is not happy because in his eyes, Jacob took off in the dead of night. He didn't say a word. Not only did he take his children, his grandchildren, he took most of his wealth with him, and he bugged out. And he didn't say a word. So Laban's looking at what he's got left and realizing, I don't have near the wealth that I once had. Oh, and my grandchildren and my children are gone too. Kind of came after the wealth part, right? But he's upset. And so he's on chase, and God intervenes and says, hey, be careful with what you do. Don't you say anything in the bad way to him. Don't do that. Make sure that you pay attention. So look at verses 25 through 30 and see what happens after that. So 25 through 30, Laban overtook Jacob. So they moved pretty fast. Now Jacob had pitched his tent in the mountains, and Laban with his brethren pitched in the mountains of Gilead. And Laban said to Jacob, "What have you done, that you have stolen away unknown to me, and carried away my daughters like captives taken with the sword? Why did you flee away secretly and steal away from me, and not tell me? For I might have sent you away with joy and songs, with timbrel and harp, and you did not allow me to kiss my sons and daughters. Now you have done foolishly in so doing. It is in my power to do you harm, but the God of your father spoke to me last night, saying, Be careful that you speak to Jacob neither good nor bad. And now you have surely gone because you greatly long for your father's house. But why did you steal my gods?" So, a lot of things going on in that passage, and a lot of questions, a lot of things that he brings up. And so they have made it to the mountains. Now, the mountains of Gilead were not very far from the Jordan River. So they traveled pretty quickly, and they were very close to passing over the Jordan and moving back into the promised land. So they had gotten close, but Laban still caught him. He still got there right before he got to the river and crossed over. He got him just before he got to the promised land. So they traveled quick. This was not a casual trip. They had a purpose, and they were moving, probably resting very little while they were continuing to move. And the first thing he asked him is, "Why did you flee away secretly? Why did you leave secretly? Why didn't you tell me? Why did you do that?" Well, why would he say that? Well, he was trying to shame Jacob, right? He was trying to make it seem like Jacob was the one that did the bad thing. He's trying to shame him, and he's trying to make him think that, oh, Laban's a good guy, and I was just wrong in what I did. Why did you flee away secretly? He wants to shame him. He said, "We could have had a celebration at your departure." Now, he's lived there for 20 years. The first 7 years, he was forced into labor to work for a daughter. And when it came time for him to get the daughter, he switched him out, gave him the wrong one. Then he made him work another 7 years, again, for another daughter. This time he gets the right daughter, but he still doesn't let him leave. And now he's worked another 6 years since then. He's doing all that, and Laban is saying, "We could have had a celebration." Apparently, Jacob didn't actually believe that, but Laban threatened him then and said, "It's in my power to do you harm," meaning I have a legal right to do you harm, and I have the men here to do that. I could do you harm right now. I have them with me, and I could do this. So trying to shame him didn't work, so now he's threatening. Now he's turning it around and making it a threatening thing. And then he tries another approach. "My sons and my daughters, you took them away. I didn't even get to kiss my sons and my daughters." Well, that's a little confusing until we realize he's talking about his grandsons and his granddaughters. He's not talking about his daughters. He's talking about his grandchildren. He says that you took them away. I didn't even get to kiss them goodbye. I didn't even get to see them. You took them away. And so in all these things that he's bringing up, he said, I could have done you harm. It's in my power. But your God told me not to do that. Your father's God. Notice that. He said, your father's God, not your God, the God of your father told me not to do that. So in all of this that happened, why did you do this? And then, oh yeah, on top of everything else, why did you steal my gods? Why did you steal my gods? You've already stolen my sheep. You've stolen all of my livestock. You've taken away my family. You've taken away my wealth. You've done all that. And now you're going to steal my gods too? Why are you taking my gods? Well, remember, Jacob knows nothing about the gods being stolen. He knows nothing about these idols whatsoever. And so now he's accusing him of that. Let's see how Jacob responds to that in verse 31 and 32. I don't think he's going to respond very pleasantly. Then Jacob answered and said to Laban, because I was afraid, for I said, perhaps you would take your daughters from me by force. With whomever you find your gods, do not let them live. in the presence of our brethren, identify what I have of yours and take it with you. For Jacob did not know that Rachel had stolen them. So now he's saying, hey, you're accusing me wrongly. What you're doing, you're accusing me wrongly. I was afraid that you might come after me and you might harm me, just like you just threatened to do. I was afraid of that. That's why I tried to sneak away without you knowing. That's why I tried to leave without causing a big scene. And obviously he was right, because he came telling him, I have every right to harm you. So he was right about that. But now you're accusing me of stealing your idols. Why would I want your idols? You know what? You want to be such a person and accuse me of something, then you go find them. You go find those idols. And if you find them with somebody in this group, then you do to them whatever you need to do, because I didn't do it. Don't even let them live. You put them to death, because they shouldn't have done that. I didn't authorize it. So if somebody did it, you do not even let them live. So he's bowed up on it. Problem with all that is he doesn't know that the wife that he loves most of all has them. He has no idea that she has stolen them. She didn't say anything about it. She just took them. Why did she take them? We all still have questions about that. Nobody really understands exactly why she took them, but she did. Perhaps she had some emotional connection to him. Perhaps she thought he might use them and somehow find out about their plan. Perhaps there was something that she thought if she kept him from them, it would be beneficial to them. Maybe they were gold and she was going to sell them at some point. I don't know what it was, but she took them. Jacob doesn't know it, so he's calling for whoever he finds them with, then you put them to death. Whoever you find them with, you put them to death. And I'm just going to show you, we don't have them. So go ahead, do your search. And that's how confident I am that we don't have them. If you find them with anybody, you go ahead and put them to death. Sometimes people bow up and say things and then it comes back to haunt them, right? So in this case, it very easily could have come back to haunt them. However, in this case, we're going to look at verses 33 through 35 and see exactly what happened. 33 through 35, and Laban went into Jacob's tent, into Leah's tent, and into the two maids' tents, but he did not find them there. Then he went out of Leah's tent and entered Rachel's tent. Now Rachel had taken the household items, put them in the camel's saddle, and sat on them. And Laban searched all about the tent, but he did not find them. And she said to her father, let it not displease my lord, that I cannot rise before you, for the manner of woman is with me. And he searched, but did not find the household items. He searched, but did not find the household items. She said the one thing to stop a man cold in his tracks, right? Nope, not going to even address that. Nope, if that's what's going on, nope, you stay right where you are. I don't want anything to do with it. She knew exactly what was going on. She was smart. She took those idols and she hid them in the one place she knew he would never look. And all she had to do is tell him a little fib, and never would he look. And it may not have been a fib. It doesn't say whether it was or it was not, but with everything else, the deceit that had already happened up to that point, we believe it to still be a fib. Okay, we still believe that it was deceit. He went in and he searched the tent. The first thing, notice that he went into Jacob's tent first. Oh, he was really hoping he'd find them in Jacob's tent. Now, Jacob had already told him, if you find them, kill whoever you find them with. Come on, he's not going to have them in his tent. But he went straight into his tent. He checked it out. Nothing, didn't find it. Then after he went into his tent, then he went over into Leah's tent. He didn't go to Rachel's first. He went over to Leah's tent. He went all through Leah's tent, went through her maid's tents, went through all of the stuff that they had and found nothing. So now he said, I see what he did. The favorite. He's got her hiding them. I'm going over here. So he went into Rachel's tent. He searched everywhere. He couldn't find it. He searched her maid's tents. He couldn't find it. Then he comes out to Rachel, and there she is sitting on the saddle. And then she says, I can't stand up. And that ended that. The search was over. So even though it could have easily come into a place where Jacob could have lost the wife that he wanted most of all, he could have lost her because she was lying, And she had stolen the idols, and then he made the proclamation, if you find them, you kill whoever they're with. God still protected them. God still protected them. Here's the crazy thing I want us to think about. This family. I mean, just think about this family, right? We'll start with Jacob and Esau. Got Jacob and Esau. Well, Jacob and Esau had been at odds since they were born. One of them came out holding the other one's heel, right? They came out fighting from the time they were born. Mom liked one better. Dad liked one better. Big problem. Got a big problem. That's a whole nother problem. They're being raised that way. Whole big problem. Then mom starts scheming. Dad starts scheming. And the two of them scheme and end up swapping out the birthrights, doing all of the things that they did. So all of this had ended. How did it end? It ended with um, Isaac losing his sons because one of them was going to kill the other one. The son that Rachel loved the best had to leave because one son was going to kill the other one. And so, in all of this that was going on, what a messed up situation it was. So they split and went their different ways, and they all learned their lesson. And so Jacob never deceived anybody again until his mouth opened the next time. Um, he was a continual deceiver. That was his name, a deceiver. He continued to deceive. Who knows? Rachel might have learned it from him. His wife might have learned how to deceive from following him, seeing what he was doing. This whole family has been messed up from the get-go. And the amazing thing is, God is still with them. God is still protecting them. God is still watching over them. God is still making certain that they're going to succeed. Why? Because God had already made a covenant with Jacob. And God keeps his part of the covenant even if we don't. Even if Jacob was messed up and he was deceitful and he did all of those things, God still honors that covenant that he made. He still continued to take care of Jacob. We know one day all this is going to change. And I think about the 21st century. And I think about people. They come to church and they put on a good show and they have their Bible with them and they read they have their Sunday school book and they sing, "Oh, how I love Jesus," and they do all that, and then they turn around and they go out during the week and there are some very deceitful, very mean people. They do all kinds of crazy things and then walk back up here on Sunday like nothing ever happened. And, I wonder, why does God not just go, no, you know, I'm glad he didn't because all of us would probably be gone by now. But we wonder sometimes, why doesn't God just put them into it? God, they can't even follow the rules. Just, get rid of them. Wait, I don't always follow the rules either. Never mind, God, let me change my mind. Thanks for the grace. We all want grace for ourselves, but we don't care about giving grace to anybody else. But God does. God gives grace. He gave grace to Jacob, even though it was a situation in which Jacob had been deceiving since he was born. It was a situation in which Jacob didn't do the right things. It was a situation, and now Jacob and Rachel are both deceiving and all of the things that are going on. But yet God still provided. God still took care of them. Now, all of this that happened, they didn't find anything. Nobody could have all of this. So Jacob said, now I've had it. Now I've had it. So look at verses 36 through 42. Verses 36 through 42. And it says this. Then Jacob was angry. Now Jacob done got mad. Jacob was angry, and he rebuked Laban, and Jacob answered and said to Laban, "What is my trespass? What is my sin that you have so hotly pursued me? Although you have searched all my things, what part of your household things have you found? Set it here before my brethren and your brethren, that they might judge between both of us. These 20 years I've been with you. Your ewes and your female goats have not miscarried their young. I've not eaten the rams of your flock. That which was torn by beasts I did not bring to you. I bore the loss of it. You required it from my hand, whether stolen by day or stolen by night. There I was. In the day the drought consumed me, and the frost by night, and my sleep departed my eyes. Thus I have been in your house 20 years. I served you 14 years for your 2 daughters and 6 years for your flock, and you've changed my wages 10 times. Unless the God of my father, the God of Abraham, and the fear of Isaac had been with me, surely now you would have sent me away empty-handed. God has seen my affliction and the labor of my hands and rebuked you last night. So he's upset. He's laying it down. All this 20 years of stuff has welled up in him and he is letting it go. He says, what did I do? Prove it. You come blaming me for everything, yet you can't prove anything. If you got something, lay it out here and let all these people see it. You got nothing. You're falsely accusing me for no reason. Not only that, but I've been with you 20 years. 20 years. Think about somebody, an employee that worked for you for 20 years. Typically, you try to treat them pretty nice, right? I've been with you 20 years. 14 years I worked just to get my wives. And then I stayed with you another 6 years to get my flock. I stayed with you this whole time, and yet you treated me like a terrible person. You required more of me than you did anybody else. And then on top of that, you kept changing my wages 10 different times. Every 2 years, my wages change. What am I getting? You keep changing everything. All of that, and you come and accuse me. You come and accuse me. Unless the God of my father, listen closely, unless the God of my father, the God of Abraham, and the fear of Isaac had been with me, surely now you would have sent me away empty-handed. Notice what he did not say. He did not say, unless my God and the God of Abraham and the fear of Isaac had been with me. He said, unless the God of my father. He still is not claiming God as his own. He's still not claiming God as his own. He's hanging on to his father's shirt tail. Understand that there are people today, in this world today, that truly believe that because their parents, their grandparents, whoever it was a deacon, a pastor, a Sunday school teacher, they went to church every Sunday, they've been reading their Bible all their life, and so because of that, I'm in. I'm in because I'm part of that family. So, kind of like the football player that never gets on the field, but at the end of the season, he gets a championship ring. Never saw the field, but at the end of the season, he's listed on the team and he gets a championship ring, but he never did anything to earn it, right? That's how people think heaven's going to be. Well, at the end of this whole time, maybe I didn't do what they did, but because I'm part of that team, I'm coming in with them. I'm getting that. That's not what Scripture tells us. Each individual has to make their own decision. Here, Jacob said, the God of my father, not my God. The God of my father, the God of Abraham, his grandfather, not my God. The fear of Isaac, the fear, why? Because Isaac was a powerful man. The fear of Isaac had been with me. Surely you would have sent me away. God protected Jacob. Nowhere in all that did he claim God as his own. Nowhere. God still protected Jacob. He wasn't done with him. He still had something for him. He still needed to teach him some things. He still needed to use him. He was still the one he was going to fulfill the covenant through. He was still the one who was going to have all of these children, and all of these things were going to happen. He was still the one. And so God protected him, even though he was messing everything up. He messed it all up. I wonder sometimes how many times I have to mess up before God says, okay, it's too late. You blew it. Because I got to tell you, I mess up routinely. And if you tell me you don't, then we need to have a one-on-one talk. I mess up routinely. All of us fail. We all fall short of the glory of God. All of us struggle. The judgmental side of me says, well, how long is God going to let them do that before he punishes them? The other side of me says, God, don't punish me. Give me grace. I didn't mean to. I'll do better. Two different sides. I had a man this morning. I went in. He said, I made a mistake. He said, the way we do our hours, they work 9-hour shifts, for 8 days and one 8-hour shift on the ninth day to get their 40 hours. I meant to get their 80 hours for the 2 weeks. Okay. Well, he forgot to work an 8-hour shift. So he already had an hour more than he was supposed to have. And he couldn't leave. He had written his time and he couldn't go because the next person wouldn't be there for an hour. He said, I made a mistake. He said, how do I fix that? I said, thank you for your donation. He laughed. Well, if that's what it has to be, I mean, I made the mistake. And I said, I mean, if I was the boss, I would tell you that was your decision. You're the one that messed up, so you're just going to have to eat it. I said, really, I wouldn't be that hard. But, he said, well, it'd be fair. I said, yeah, but I think the boss will give you some grace. I said, just ask him, tell him what you did, see if he'll let you have some comp time or credit hours or something. And he did. The boss showed him grace. See, on one hand, the boss could have said, no, but instead he gave him grace. And that easy, the person that's standing there making that decision, you have to decide, will you give grace or will you, as they say, put the hammer down, right? What will you do? And we all want to put the hammer down until it comes to us. We all want to put the hammer down on other people, but we want God to forgive us and give us grace. What if, I know it's a novel idea, what if we thought like God does? What if we wanted to give grace and not put the hammer down all the time? What if we looked at the other people and said, you know what? I understand. I make mistakes too. And I forgive you because God forgives me, so I'm going to forgive you. What if we did that? How much different would it be? How much different would all that be? All this that happened, Jacob said, the God of my father, but he had not yet grasped who he is, but God kept giving him grace. You know how many times when somebody keeps getting grace, eventually they find God. Eventually they realize that they're lost. Eventually they see what it is. Eventually, perhaps they come around. If you treat them ugly, they're turning away. They're never following. They're not going to keep looking. Pastor friend of mine is teaching a Bible class in Mississippi College. They had some kind of short semester, and so the Bible class that he's teaching was a Bible class that was open to teach the Holy Bible, but there were many other faiths in the classroom other than Christianity. He said at the end of the class, when he gave the final exam, he had a bunch of notes written on the final exam after the people turned them in. One said, when I started this class, I was an agnostic. I now know Jesus as my Savior. Another said, I was a Buddhist, but I had left Buddhism and I just didn't know where to turn. I haven't given my life to Jesus yet, but I'm very interested in this. Had another one that said, I realized that my whole life plan was wrong. And now I'm going to major in Christian studies and go be a missionary. All from teaching that class. And when they started that class, that wasn't the direction they were going. You see, God has a way of doing things that doesn't seem like that would be the outcome. Jacob, we've seen all these things Jacob done. It would have been perfectly fine if God had tossed him by the side with everything that he did. But instead, God kept giving him grace. God continued to do that. I want you to look with me to verses 43 through 50. 43 through 50. And Laban answered and said to Jacob, these daughters are my daughters, and these children are my children, and this flock is my flock. All that you see is mine. But what can I do this day to these my daughters or to their children whom they have borne? Now therefore come, let us make a covenant, you and I. Let it be a witness between you and me. So Jacob took a stone and set it up as a pillar. Then Jacob said to his brethren, gather stones. And they took stones and made a heap, and they ate there on the heap. Laban called it Jagar Sahadutha, but Jacob called it Galheed. And Laban said, this heap is a witness between you and me this day. Therefore its name was called Galheed, and also Mizpah, because he said, may the Lord watch between you and me when we are absent one from another. If you afflict my daughters, or if you take other wives besides my daughters, although no man is with us, see, God is witness between you and me. God is a witness between you and me. So he's still talking about God, which is unusual, right? He said, you see all this stuff? Really, it's mine. I know you think it's yours, but really it's mine. All this was mine that you have taken from me. I have every right to all this. It's mine. But what can I do? These are now your wives. These are your children. These flocks are now yours. What can I do? So the best thing for us to do is let's separate. We're going to make a covenant between the two of us, and we're going to separate. And we're going to go our different ways, never to see each other again, because that's the best thing we can do. Laban boldly said everything Jacob had belonged to him, but in a supposed act of generosity, he said, I'll let you have it. May the Lord watch between you and me when we are absent from one another. Again, unbeliever, talking about God. May the Lord watch. Mizpah, by the way, the idea of Mizpah, if you do wrong, God will see it and he may punish you. That's what Mizpah meant. May the Lord watch between you and me when we're absent. If he sees anything go wrong, God's going to punish you. That's why he was calling on God. He's saying, I can't see you, but God can. So if you do something wrong, may God punish you. I mean, I can't blame him for saying, if you mess up with my daughters, they had this covenant. They built up this pillar, and it became a pillar of separation to make sure that Laban stayed on one side and Jacob stayed on the other. And we're not to ever cross past this again. Don't ever come back. Man, what a way to send off your daughters and grandchildren. Go now, but don't ever come back. 51 through 55. Then Laban said to Jacob, here is this heap and here is this pillar, which I have placed between you and me. This heap is a witness, and this pillar is a witness that I will not pass beyond this heap to you, and you will not pass beyond this heap and pillar to me for harm. The God of Abraham, the God of Nahor, the God of their father, judge between us. And Jacob swore by the fear of his father Isaac. Then Jacob offered a sacrifice on the mountain and called his brethren to eat bread, and they ate bread and stayed all night on the mountain. And early in the morning Laban arose and kissed his sons and daughters and blessed them. Then Laban departed and returned to his place. I will not pass beyond this heap to you. You will not pass beyond this heap to me to do harm to one another. That's what they're saying. Look, don't come back and try to fight me. I won't come back and try to fight you. You just stay on your side. I'll stay on my side. There might be some wisdom in having separation from your in-laws. For some people, that might be a good thing. The Bible says leave and cleave, right? Leave your mother and father and cleave to your husband or wife. So that's what they did. They left. The reality is they knew this would not suffice. It wouldn't work. He says, you stay over here, I'll stay over there. We're not gonna mix it. So after a proper goodbye, and Laban saw his daughters and his grandchildren for the last time, he took his family to Canaan, and he never returned to where Laban lived. Jacob never returned. This is the last we ever hear of Laban in the Bible. This is it. That's the last we ever hear of him. Nowhere else does he appear in the Bible. That's it. So in that moment, when they separated, it was for good. They never went back. They separated completely. They made sure that they stayed on either side. Rather than seeking the truth to follow God as he saw everything that God did for Jacob. Remember, he knew Jacob was being blessed. He saw that. That's why he wanted him to stay. He's like, everything he touches is incredible. Everything he does, he's blessed. He kept wanting to stay because he was blessed. Instead of going, well, why is he blessed? Who is blessing him? How do I get to know them? Instead, he just got greedy about everything that Jacob got. He never followed it. Rachel and Leah were wrong to look to their father Laban for their portion or their inheritance. Why? They now have a husband. The husband is the one they're supposed to be looking to, not their father anymore. Now they're married. Their husband is the one that provides for them, not their father. They should never have been looking at that. The reality is that oftentimes we as Christians do the same thing. Here's what we do. We say, okay, God, I'm following you. I am a child of the King, and I trust you to provide in every possible way. Yet we spend every waking hour trying to build our fortune because we don't know how we can live without it. We don't know what's going to happen. We have to go the way of the world. So instead of trusting the God that we now have joined together, we trust the world. We follow the world instead of God. And we follow the world to make sure all our needs are met. We follow the world to make sure we have what we think we need and what we want. We follow the world instead of spending that time following God. What if instead of chasing the fortune, we chase God? What if instead of trying to accumulate as much wealth as we could, we tried to help other people? What if we actually listened to God and followed Him and separated from the world and stayed on that side of the pillar? What if we really did that? How incredible that would be if we did just that. God blessed Jacob and his family, even though he continued to make mistakes. People say, well, I want to follow God, but I'm not ready yet. I still have too many things in my life I need to get straightened out. Guess what? Every day you're going to add to that. You're never going to get it straightened out because for everything you think you get straightened out, you're going to do something else. You're never going to get that worked out. So if you wait till you're straightened out to give your life to God, you're never going to do it. People say, well, I got a lot of life left I want to live before I give it up and follow God. You see, they're thinking the world is so much better and they want all the world they can get. And when they've had enough of the world, then they'll turn to God. When I've had enough world, then I'll turn to God. I had a student one time, said they were going to graduate, they were moving away, they didn't want to live in this little town anymore. They wanted to move out, they wanted to see what else was in the world. I said, well, you know, anything that you're wanting to see in the world, you can see right here. No, I want to go out and see the big world. I want to see everything. I want to experience things that I can't experience here. I want to go out and experience all of that before I settle down and, decide to get married and raise a family and do all those kind of things. In other words, I want to go party for a while. And after I party for a while, then I'll come on back home and find a husband, raise a family, do all of that. But I want to see what I'm missing out on. I want to see what I'm missing out on. Tell me if this has ever happened to you. Somebody pulled out a gallon of milk out of the refrigerator and they opened it up. Oh, this stuff is bad. Here, smell this. Does this smell bad to you? Now, the first thing you did is you saw them go, oh, when they opened it. And what do? Sniff it anyway. Oh, yes, it smells bad to me too. Why did you smell it? You saw how they reacted, but you just wanted to confirm what they said. You wanted to see for yourself that it was really bad. People do the same thing with the world. They can look out at the world and they see all these bad things that happen in the world. They can see how people get chewed up by the world. They can see how people are so lost and all the things that are going on, and yet still they got to experience it for themselves before they can decide, yeah, I don't need to drink that milk. That stuff's bad. I don't really need to drink it. They want to experience it for themselves. After a while, finally, when I saw somebody open the milk and make that face, I'm like, I ain't smelling that. Yeah, right. I can tell from over here, that's bad. Throw it away. Sometimes it takes us to look at the world and go, I'm not smelling that. That's bad. I can tell that from here. I don't need to go out in there. I can see it's bad. I'm going to stay on this side of the pillar. I'm going to follow God. That's how we've got to approach the world. That's how eventually Jacob began to approach the world. Not at this point yet, but eventually. So, Still a lot going on. Now he's got to go home and face the other one that wants to kill him. Now he's got to go face his brother. So we will be picking that back up next week. We will have business meetings, so we'll meet from 6:30 to 7, and then we'll move into business meeting. But we'll be picking that up. For those of you who are here tonight and perhaps online, I want to remind you that this Sunday night, 5 p.m., our children's play is going to be happening, and we look forward to what they're going to do. We pray for them right now. It's hard when you stand up there and those spotlights come on and you go, oh, I don't remember what I was supposed to say. It's hard. So pray for them that they'll do their very best, that God's word will be heard through the play. And then once it's all over, we're going to come back over here and we're going to celebrate together. We're going to celebrate an early Christmas together. So last time we did this, we had so many people that we ran out of food. And so what we're asking is, if you're planning on coming this year and you're planning on bringing something for your family, bring enough for your family and 2 more. Bring enough that there's extra for everybody. Listen, if you have to take home a plate full of pigs in the blanket, they'll get eaten. But if they're not here, then we run out of food, okay? So please bring plenty and come and enjoy it, and we're going to have a good time in the Lord together. All right? For those of you who have joined us online tonight, God bless and good night.